So the Xiaomi 14 Pro, yes, it's out already, the 14 series. You can also get the 14, which is smaller. But the Pro model I have now, I'm currently recording with the front-facing camera. Why am I doing this? Well, just to give you a sample straight away what to expect. I only have an external mic hooked up just to stop any wind noise. And it is 4K. Yes, finally, Xiaomi has 4K with their front-facing cameras. So this phone has the Snapdragon Gen 3, the 8 Gen 3. This is the first phone I'll be testing with it. I'll run through a couple of benchmarks for you. It has 3 cameras on the rear, which are 50 megapixels. It's got a new main sensor that does have variable aperture that can go from f1.4 to f4, which is really good, and hopefully that's going to make a big difference in the low light performance. HyperOS, this is new. I'll be talking a little bit about that, and I'll cover topics that have come up. What about the support for Android Auto? What is going to happen with Google Play Store? Will it work? Can we run third-party launches, performance, those kind of things there too as well. I bought this model here from Trading Shenzhen, and it is the domestic Chinese version, not the international version. Global will be out next year. And Trading Shenzhen did include this. So an adapter for our power supply, and you can see here they have a little Type-C fan. Not that I would use that, but it's just something extra they do throw in. So we got our Type-A to Type-C cable, the power supply, 120 watts, really quick. It is using GaNTech, that's why it's extra small. And great to have this, of course, in the box where other brands just remove this. Apple, Samsung, I am looking at you. Now, the charge speed, to fully charge it, you are looking about just over 20 minutes, about 23, 22 minutes or so to charge it. And you'll find here they do also include a case. Yes, we even get a case with it. You don't have to go out and buy one. And this case, coming from the manufacturer, it's a perfect fit. And it is this silicon style gray with a lot of protection there for the camera and for the buttons too. Right, so how does it fare weight-wise? Well, not bad. It's 223 grams if you get the titanium version, but this model isn't. You can see I've got the metal frame, so it's 230 grams. The titanium finish would probably look a little bit like this right here, and I hope to be covering the titanium model, but it was released a little bit later. That's why I don't have it at the moment. So the thickness is 8.5 millimeters, and you can see that's clearly not the camera. Look at how much this sticks out. I mean, that's a big boy. It really does stick out there and quite chunky. Now the cameras, of course, we all know this. I just mentioned it at the start. We've got the 350 megapixel cameras, dual tone LED flash, and at certain light you can see where they have the other sensors there for the laser assist and whatnot. Now we've got IP68, which is really good to have with this, of course, and the battery capacity, well, it's a little smaller than I'd hoped within this model here, but I mean, it still is not bad at all, and it's 4,880 milliamp hours, and it does support, yes, wireless charging, and the 120. Now, wireless charging is 50 watts and 10 watts for the reverse wireless charging if you need to charge other devices, which isn't too bad, but I never use that feature myself. Antenna lines, the metal frame does feel really good. It's a solid feeling phone. Volume up and down, power button, also made out of metal. On this side, there's nothing apart from the antenna lines. Now, compare this to the size of a Samsung S23 Ultra. You can see that the S23 Ultra is a little taller there. And this has the 6.37-inch screen. So just turn that screen on, show you our fingerprint reader that is working really well. Now, it is optical. This is not a ultrasonic, unfortunately, which I would have preferred. I really love those on the Vivo phones. Now, the screen, you can see that bezels are not bad. They're not the slimmest out there. And is it a curved screen? Well, it isn't. Okay, it's flat, but the edges are very curved. They've got like a 2D glass, but quite a 2D glass. But that means in hand it feels really good. And so far, I really like the screen. Now, just to talk a little bit about it very briefly here, this is a screen that they claim can get 3000 nits. Now, indirect sunlight, as you see now, it's faring really well. I mean, really well. This is super bright. Now, when I measure it myself, I'm not seeing the 3000 nits. I think you need to display HDR. But in the settings here, I'll just show you what we've got. So there's a few options. We have The auto brightness, of course, that's all standard there. Color scheme, refresh rate, I've forced it to 120 Hertz, 1440p, so it's WQHD+. It is a very good screen. Now, by default, it's on this, which is the original color mode, Pro mode. You can put this onto vivid, saturated, adaptive colors there as well. I don't tend to adjust this myself, and on my camera, it might look a little bit bluish in tint, but it really isn't. It's quite a good screen and fantastic screen, actually. I would rate it as better than this. I rate it better than my Samsung Galaxy S22. This is a very good screen, but I think this one actually is better. It certainly is brighter. So what am I measuring? I'm getting just over 1600 nits. So I don't know how to trigger that, as mentioned, that 3000. But in sunlight, it certainly is looking very clear, really, really bright. Touch response is all good. A lot of people have asked me about what is going to happen if you try and run a third-party launcher. So I've got Nova Launcher here. You can clearly see that that's now a Nova. But if you swipe up for your recent apps, well, it's not going to work. It's going to do that. Now, back is going to work. If I just bring up our launcher here, swipe back, that does work. I don't know how to override and set this as home. I have looked in the settings and I cannot find it. So you see when I swipe up, it goes back now to our HyperOS. Now, HyperOS, so far, this is just a first impressions. Oh, I don't want that app fault. I need to disable that. It is good, very fast. It's just like MIUI, really. I mean, if it was labeled MIUI 14, I'd just take it as that. It's MIUI 14. Now, it's based on Android 14. If you swipe down here from the top, you get the toggles and things. They've kind of changed this a little bit. They've tweaked it. And if you swipe from the left side, then you get your recent notifications there. So pretty straightforward. Performance is very good. Have I seen any lag? Noticed any problems at all? No. And I've been using it non-stop. I've been giving it an absolute hammering. It has been really good. So I won't go into too much depth with HyperOS because really it's just like MIUI. I don't really feel like I need to go into depth there with it. Settings, it all looks the same, doesn't it? All right, it's all pretty much exactly the same there. I've had a firmware update. I'll talk a little bit about that now and some other things. I have had so far one large firmware update. This was stability and bug fixes. Now, gestures, they are working fine. You can see the animations are looking really good. And Play Store, I know a lot of people are asking about this. Will it work? Yes, Play Store does work. We've got the Google framework on board. So when you get this out of China, all you need to do is install the latest Play Store APK file, and you can get that from sites like APK Mirror, APK Pure, and then you're up and running. Give it all the permissions and it should be fine. So I wanted to point out this, that Google Chrome, it's the only thing that's not going to work. So you go to install it and it just will not let you install it. Okay, that's one thing that's not going to be working. Everything else works. And if you want Chrome, just get the beta. That is what I have done. So here you see I am running Chrome. I've got it on board installed, but the beta, and it is working just fine. WhatsApp, will you get your messages? And when your notifications, yes, and yes. They're all going to come through, but you need to give them full permissions, auto start, and I so far have not had any problems at all with it, which is great to see. A lot of people were quite concerned, being now HyperOS, that would it be blocked? I don't think anything is going to be blocked there. I think it's going to be all right for now, unless Xiaomi changes their mind. Now, bloatware. This is after I tidied up everything. There is a lot of Chinese bloat, as to be expected. You can remove pretty much everything, which is great. So that is a good thing. And what about 5G? A lot of people have, again, I've had some comments about that. Will 5G work in Europe? Will 4G LTE band 20 work? I can happily report that 5G is working, and these are my speeds. Nothing amazing. I'm with Orange, and they're pretty terrible. It's like a fake 5G. They're using the same frequency, but the network is still 4G. And 4G LTE band 20 working for me as well. So I'm happy with that. I've got no connection issues. This is a problem I did have with some other Xiaomi import devices. Widevine level 1 cert, so Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, stuff like that is going to be working. We do have Dolby Vision support, but with Netflix, it does not come up saying Dolby Vision supported. They're going to have to update that. We'll probably see it maybe with the global version. And Camera 2 API, if you want to mess about with Gcam ports, open camera, it's going to work, okay? They've got full support for all of the cameras. Again, that is very good to see. GPS, working really well. It got a lock in about 10 seconds. First lock, really good, no issues, and very good single signal strength and reception there, all in the green, as you can see. And lastly, don't forget to go into Me Apps. This is where you can update the launcher or your applications. Applications there are all updated now for my hands-on. So I make sure everything is up to date with no bugs and issues or problems. So down below, we've got the loudspeaker here, more antenna lines, dual SIM, so no micro SD card support, of course not, and USB 3 speeds out of the Type-C port. Up the top, it does not have the IR transmitter anymore, so that a few people might be disappointed about. I mean, I used it now and then. It was great to play pranks on people turning off their air conditioning or turning it on or whatever when they didn't realize, but gone. I don't know why, but it's gone. Now, this question came up a lot. What about Android Auto? So I'm trying to get it to work, and this is definitely one of the downsides to importing a Chinese device is Android Auto. No, it looks like it's going to work. I mean, you can install Android Auto, but it will just never start, and they don't have their own kind of system either. So I try and get it to work. I accept all of this here, and you think maybe, you know, something might actually work, but no, it's just not going to do it. Starting Android Auto, but it will show that it could not be started. I just can't get it to work. So we're going to need a custom ROM for that. If we can unlock the bootloader, I believe we can, but that's going to kill the updates for HyperOS. I've had a few comments about this, asking about video out. So I have here a Type-C to HDMI cable and running it through my screen. You can see it's working. But what I have noticed that it will sometimes just stop working, freeze up, and I think it's firmware related. It could be my cable. Don't believe it is. I just think it's maybe a little bit buggy here, but great to see video out support with our Xiaomi 14 Pro. And for you benchmark guys out there that like this, well, here is Antutu, and notice the score is low. Like, what is going on? This is because for some reason, it wouldn't run this part here, Seasons and Coastline, Vulcan. I don't know why, but it just said not supported. I've had problems with that, so hopefully in the future, I can get around that issue and give you a proper result. That's the S23 Ultra, that's Snapdragon Gen 2 versus the Gen 3. You can see the CPU score is quite a bit higher on our Gen 3 now, the newer one. And how does this all compare to an iPhone? This is the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and this model here, okay, that's it doesn't really compete, but it is multi-platform, but not really. What's multi-platform is this, Geekbench. Okay, let's have a look at Geekbench scores then. So there is quite a bit of a difference. Look at the iPhone. It's just so far ahead with that single core score, multi-core score even. But a nice increase. Multi-core score's gone up. Very nice boost there we're getting with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. And then finally, GPU score. Here we go. That is our GPU score. Here is it. Okay, you can see that is a massive, massive improvement now with the Gen 3. Look at that. That's gone up. What is that? Almost 5,000 points. Really good here. And even though you can't really compare it because this is metal, that's OpenGL, those two. But that is our iPhone 15 Pro Max there. But I'll take that out of the equation. You really just want to focus on those two. So yeah, it is a big boost in the GPU performance now with the new gen, but you don't actually notice that when you're gaming. Really, you don't. You don't see this. But let's have a look at gaming. So the game is looking visually really good, super smooth, but you cannot tell the difference between the 8 Gen 2 and the 8 Gen 3. Trust me on that. Now, I know, and I want to just, most people are aware of this, to point out a fact that is well known, that you're going to have all the Snapdragon insiders, the Qualcomm insiders, going, oh, you can tell the difference. The Gen 3 is so much faster. Oh, I can see those extra 3 frames per second. You can really tell the difference in gaming. Go and get it. Go buy it. It's amazing. Of course. I mean, that's their job. Their job is to shill for Qualcomm. Hashtag this, hashtag that. But what I am impressed with is the cooling on this. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is a very cool running chip, but I think Xiaomi's done an excellent job with the cooling in this. It's not getting scorching hot like the other phones do. Really impressed with the thermals so far with the 14 Pro. Now, a few of you out there did ask to see this. This is our HyperOS camera app, and really it's the same as MIUI. Now, macro mode, you got that with the ultra-wide lens. You can select up here Leica, so you've got the option between Leica Vibrant, which I think is the best at the moment, me testing both of them out. It's the one I used in my camera comparison, and Authentic. Now, Authentic, the colors are still a little bit off for me. They're not quite authentic. They're not quite true to life. It needs a little bit of work with that. You've got HDR options here. You can see all the other options we have there too, with voice shutter, HDR, style, whatnot. And I'll just show you that there's a few other things, of course, at the top here that you can go along and select under more. So lots of different options. A night mode there. You've got your director mode, super moon. I couldn't test out super moon yet because I just haven't been able to see the moon. And obviously portrait there too, photo. And you've got Dolby Vision 2 with video. Now video, you get 8K with the main lens. And you'll see here when I tap, it goes up to 8K. 30 frames per second, and there's no limitation. So when you hit record, on the first firmware, when I first got it out of the box, it popped up saying 6 minutes. So if I say that in this video with the samples, that's because I didn't remember that it's not showing the warning anymore, which is good. They removed that with the firmware update. Pro mode, a lot of people ask for that, so there's a lot of things we can adjust in here. So the focus, your shutter rate, I'll just quickly show you the options we get. All right, and you got your ISO, and depending on what lens you are using, okay, so if I'm using this, it's already saved it, so it keeps those settings, which is good. You'll be able to choose here, if you're using the main camera, you can choose our aperture. So this is that mechanical variable aperture, really good to see this. We saw it with the Mate 50 from Huawei, Mate 50 Pro, and then the P60 Pro using that same lens. But it's really good because this is a proper mechanical shutter because it has the in-between proper variable, that is. It's not just one or the other, either wide open or closed. No, in-between is you're able to select that. So you can see, we can go to f1.6 and see the stops there that just go up slowly, right up to fully closed at f4.0. And you can see it in action now. So there's a lot of new things here for Xiaomi that have been old for other brands, and that is a front-facing 4K capable video camera. So we get 4K 60, 4K 30 with the front-facing camera, and this is about damn time that they've done this. I've been ranting on about this. They've been so behind, but they decided that the end of 2023, they would get up with the times, which is really good to see. They're finally listening. Now, the quality of it looks pretty good. Not bad at all. Good electronic image stabilization. The audio bitrate is 320 kilobits per second, so good. I've noticed, however, though, the mics are very susceptible to wind noise. The slightest little breeze will come through, which is a little bit annoying. Another thing that is new here with our Xiaomi 14 Pro is 8K 30 frames per second now is what I'm shooting in. Before it was 24 frames per second only, which was a little choppy to me. I like 30 frames per second. It just looks a lot smoother. But the quality looks very good, really sharp. And if you want to crop in to say 4K still, you've got plenty of options and room to crop in. This is now 60 frames per second. And yes, the footage is looking very smooth indeed. Do like what I'm seeing with the video quality. There is no limit when you record 4K. Not 30 or 60. It doesn't show up saying you have 10 minutes or 6 minutes. Nothing like that, which is good. Now the focus has been very good for me, you can see, and I like that transition. See how nice and smooth that is. Looks great. And a bit of a jog, testing that stability. Optical and electronic stabilization. This is the ultra wide, so this is just 100% electronic image stabilization, no optical. And as I pan around, it's looking pretty smooth. I do like what I'm seeing with the video quality. Now I can start to zoom in and it'll swap over to the main lens. You see that transition, how it changes the color science a little bit, and I'll keep applying that digital zoom. So once it gets up to 3.2, that is now 3.2. See how it swapped over? There we go, that is 3.2. Looking at the castle of Denya. Now you can hear a lot of wind noise. That's what I was talking about before. These mics are very, very susceptible to any slight breeze. So how do the cameras fare? Does it stack up against the competition? Can the 14 Pro compete with the likes of the iPhone 15 Pro Max or the Galaxy S23 Ultra? Yes, it can. Now I have a camera comparison specifically going over this, and it does an excellent job, sometimes beating those phones with the likes of HDR and low light performance. It fares really well, and with more firmware updates, I could see this phone definitely bettering in some scenarios other flagships. What is a little bit disappointing is the zoom. You can only do so much with 3.2 times optical zoom, but the other cameras have a lot of potential. So there we go. Overall, this is a very impressive phone, and it's very similar to the previous models. It's not like a massive difference at all in what I'm seeing, especially when it comes to the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. So the difference between the Gen 2, the Gen 3, will you notice this? I can tell you, and I'll bet money on this, that if we did a blind test between the Gen 2 and the Gen 3 to get people to try and distinguish which one felt faster, which one gamed better, you'd be very hard put to tell the difference. It really is the same. Now, I've been reviewing phones for 10 years. I've reviewed countless, hundreds of phones now. It's always the case that when you get the newer chipsets, you can't notice this difference. You don't really notice the difference at all until you run those synthetic benchmarks. That's about it. There may be incremental minor things like, okay, the ISP is a little bit better at this, it's better at video. Really, you don't see this at all. So video out is working, but it's only clone display, front-facing 4K footage. What do you think? I think it's actually really good. I think this is great for Xiaomi's first attempt. The build quality, the frame, the screen, all very good. It's a solid phone, a really good offering so far in what we're getting. However, there is, of course, the problem. If you import this model from China, Android Auto is not going to work. You could have issues with 5G and 4G bands depending on your region. It seems to be working just fine for me. I've got LTE band 20. It's connected up. It's working. 5G seems to be working. Not amazing speeds, but it is working for me, getting what I normally get out of Orange, which is my network that I'm using here. And really, there's not a lot that I have negative to say about this phone at all. HyperOS seems just like MIUI 14, really, with some minor little changes, bits and pieces there. And it doesn't seem to like third-party launchers to set them as default, the default home. That's the only thing there, too, is something else. So just minor things apart from, well, Android Auto until someone can get that or fix that. Otherwise, wait for the global version, of course. If you want the local warranty, you want Android Auto, and you won't have the Chinese bloatware and whatnot. But I got rid of most of it, and everything seems great. So first impressions are really positive here, what I'm seeing with the Xiaomi 14 Pro. So thanks a lot for watching this video. Do check out my camera comparison. And I'll probably have some follow-up videos too with the 14 Pro here.